evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's debate. My name is Mitchell Miller, and I am the chairman, and Ruby Selleck is the timekeeper. The adjudicator is Mr. Saxon. The topic for this debate is that banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is the right decision. The affirmative team seated to my right is from Adelaide High School. The negative team seated to my left is from St. Mary's College. The speaking time for this debate is 4 minutes. A single warning bell will sound 1 minute before the speaking time, and a double bell will sound at the speaking time. A continuous bell may be rung 30 seconds after the speaking time, in which case the speaker must sit down immediately. Please ensure that your mobile phones and other electronic devices are switched off. I declare this debate open and call upon the first affirmative speaker, George Rutty.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is the right decision. We define a topic as smoking, the action or habit of inhaling and exhaling the smoke of tobacco or a drug, outdoor, done situated or used out of doors. Dining areas, an area in a restaurant, cafe, etc., in which meals are eaten. Banning officially or legally prohibits something. So therefore, banning smoking in an outdoor dining area is a good decision. We, the affirmative team, believe that this statement is 100% true. Today, as the first affirmative speaker, I'll be talking to you about 3 points. That smoking in dining areas can ruin a restaurant's reputation, that there is a high risk of passive smoking being in a health risk, and that food can be contaminated by smoke. Our second speaker will be talking to you about a further 3 points. His first point is that there are already designated smoking areas scattered around cities. His second is that workers at restaurants without a smoking ban can get serious diseases just by being around smokers all day. Evan's final point is that people may not enjoy the food that they are eating because it is too full potential because of bad smell from smokers. Our third speaker will rebut and sum up our team case. I'm going to discuss 3 points. My first point is that other people will be affected as because of second-hand smoking. Would you like to be inhaling toxic smoke while you eat a meal? I sure wouldn't, especially if I was asthmatic or had respiratory infections, an ear infection, and sudden infant death syndrome. Some health conditions of second-hand smoking include coronary heart disease, stroke, and lung cancer. People would definitely be contracting a health condition. Since 1964, the Surgeon General reported 2.5 million adults who were non-smokers died because they breathed second-hand smoke. It is also very dangerous to pregnant women who have an infant inside of them. If they breathe in these deadly fumes, the child could contract something that could kill it or have serious deformities, according to the Centers of Disease Control Prevention. My second point is that the restaurant's reputation would be at stake if they allow people to smoke. It would stink out the entire restaurant and would affect the food, which I will elaborate on in my next point. Who would want to go to a restaurant which has other people exhaling fumes for others to breathe in? My third and final point is that food can be contaminated by the smoke from the inhalants. If someone is dining outside and someone is smoking next or to nearby the person, then the smoke, which contains thousands of chemicals, may drift onto that person's food, which can leave traces of harmful chemicals and bacteria on the food. It can ruin the taste of the food and the experience of the dining overall. Chemical food contamination can also easily happen and may result in serious health problems from the chemicals which are left on the food. Chemicals like arsenic acid, which is poison, and carbon monoxide, which comes from a car exhaust, are some of the many chemicals in cigarette smoke. Imagine some of these sitting atop of your lovely salad. Would you enjoy it? So, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we the affirmative team know that banning smoking in outdoor dining areas was a good decision. Thank you.
I call upon the first negative speaker, Gersten Hundal.
Good evening, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for tonight's debate is that banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is the right decision. We agree with the affirmative team's definition. We strongly disagree with this statement. I would like to begin by pointing out some flaws in the opposition's argument. The first affirmative speaker has said that smoking in restaurants will ruin restaurants' reputation. However, this is wrong, because how would allowing people of all habits to a restaurant be lowering any reputation? The first affirmative speaker has tried to tell you that people will get affected from secondhand smoking. However, this is not entirely true. Secondhand smoking is a luxury health threat. According to an article in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute, a study of 76,000 women over more than a decade found no statistically significant relationship between the lung cancer and exposure to passive smoke. As first speaker, I will discuss how banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is an act of discrimination, a hypocritical law, and the effect it will have on local businesses. Our second speaker, Tori, will talk to you about how people eating at outdoor dining areas are exposed to harmful pollutions worse than smoke, the alternatives available, and the dangers which this ban poses. And our third and final speaker, Batul, will rebut and sum up our team's case to leave no doubts in your mind, ladies and gentlemen, that banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is certainly not the right decision. Now to my first point. Banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is not the right decision because it totally outcasts smokers and discriminates against them. Public places should be available to everyone for all purposes in our democratic society. If people don't like smoke, then avoid smoke and dine inside. This law is denying smokers the freedom of choice and taking away their rights. People who are just like you, only with different habits because they like to smoke. This is discrimination. Does this mean that people who have any kind of bad habits, like being addicted to junk food or Maccas or drinking too many soft drinks, should be isolated by not allowing them to eat their burgers or drink alcohol outside? I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, is banning smoking in outdoor dining areas right decision or a true act of discrimination? Furthermore, how hypocritical is this law anyway? The government can't approve the sales of cigarettes and then rule that you can't smoke them anywhere. Selling and buying cigarettes is legal, so smoking in outdoor dining areas should be allowed. Let's face it, with the government, according to tobaccoinaustralia.org, earning $2 million a year from the tax they put on cigarettes, they are not only hypocritical, but unfair and unjust. Should we ban swimming pools because people drown, cars because people have accidents, planes because they crash? We all know cigarettes are a health danger, but this doesn't mean they should be banned in outdoor dining areas. Now to my second point. Banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is not the right decision because it will have significant effects on local businesses and around 22,000 businesses will be affected across the state, according to Farah, news reporter of theage.com. It is clear that because of this rule, the restaurants, pubs, bars and cafes will lose business because the smokers will stop coming to these dining areas. The manager of Coffee Hub in Pembroke stated that after having the outdoor dining area as a no-smoking area, he lost a lot of regular customers. So, ladies and gentlemen, is it really necessary to ban outdoor smoking when it could poorly affect local businesses? In conclusion, we, the negative team, strongly believe that banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is most definitely not the right decision. It is an act of discrimination, a hypocritical law, and it affects the economy of local businesses. Think, ladies and gentlemen, is this a noble deed or a true act of discrimination?
I call upon the second affirmative speaker, Evan Manessy.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is the right decision. We, the affirmative team, believe that this statement is true. The first speaker has tried to tell you that smokers have the right to smoke. Yes, smokers have rights, but this is obviously within reason. Don't others have the right to be able to eat without worry, without fear of involuntarily being harmed? While there is a right to free will, it comes with a responsibility of not harming others, which passive smoking does. Also, is it really fair to force non-smokers and your employees to breathe second-hand tobacco smoke just so you can be fair to smokers? Our first speaker has already explained that smoking ruins restaurant reputation, causes second-hand smoking damage, and also that smoke could contaminate the restaurant's food. Today I will be talking to you about the areas specifically for smoking, how smoking affects restaurant workers, and the effect smoking has on other restaurant participants. My first point is that restaurants have areas specifically for smoking. This means that when smokers wish to smoke, they should go to the designated area to smoke rather than disturbing outdoor diners. Despite the fact that outdoor smoking areas are technically legal, they are very inconvenient to outside diners who wish to enjoy the atmosphere, as the smell and smoke being emitted from the smokers would be inhaled by the diners. However, if the smoker were to smoke in the designated area, they would disturb less people, as there would be less tables near the smokers' area to prevent inconvenience. As well as this, 20 to 30% of smokers actually prefer smoke-free dining, according to a Gallup poll. Now to my second point. My second point is that smoking affects restaurant workers. This is because of the workers being constantly exposed to the secondhand smoke. In fact, a University of California study suggests that waiters and waitresses have about a 50 to 90% increased risk of lung cancer that is most likely attributable to restaurant tobacco smoke exposure. As well as this, waitresses who work in restaurants which allow smoking have over 3 times the lung cancer risk and over double the heart disease risk as do women in other jobs, according to a University of California and San Francisco study. My third and final point is the effect smoking has on other restaurant participants. According to the Louisiana Public Health Institute, around one smoking customer will actually cause 5 non-smoking customers to leave the restaurant. This shows a significant profit loss for the restaurant that allows smoking. As well as this, according to a survey by the National Restaurant Association, 56% more customers would eat there more frequently if the restaurant was smoke-free, compared to the 27% that would not. This shows that smoking has a significant effect on other diners' enjoyment and can explicitly impact the profit of the restaurant. Therefore, if smoking in outdoor areas is banned, then people would eat there more frequently and the restaurant would profit, as there would be less smoke to drive other potential customers away. So, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, my team believes that allowing smoking in outdoor areas is a cigarette.
I call upon the second negative speaker, Tori Miller.
Good evening, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for tonight's debate is that banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is the right decision. We, the negative team, strongly disagree with this statement. I would like to begin by pointing out the flaws in the opposition's argument. The second affirmative speaker has tried to tell you that passive smoking affects workers in dining areas. However, this is not entirely true, because workers themselves aren't finding secondhand smoking to affect their health in the slightest compared to other types of pollution, for instance, car exhaust fumes. The Restaurant and Caterers Association chief, John Hart, had stated the staff are actually exposed to more negative impacts by smoking outdoors on the footpath from car exhaust and other pollution than they are from tobacco smoke. The second affirmative speaker has also suggested that smoking is unpleasant to people in the dining area. However, this is not entirely true, because smokers are generally considerate of others, especially in dining areas. I mean, let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, how often have you been eating dinner outside and had a smoker purposely puff smoke in your face or food? Our first speaker, Gersom, has already discussed the negative economic effects of the ban and how it is an act of discrimination and a hypocritical law. I will discuss the alternatives that eating places can offer to smokers, and I will also argue that the banning of smoking in outdoor dining areas has only led to people smoking elsewhere, which is potentially more dangerous. This will leave no doubts in your minds, ladies and gentlemen, that the banning of smoking in outdoor dining areas is the wrong decision. Now to my first point. Why are we worried about the health risks from passive smoking when there is a deadlier concern, air pollution? Did you know, ladies and gentlemen, that in Australia, 3,000 people are killed per year from air pollution? The World Health Organization stated in 2014 that air pollution has caused more deaths worldwide than AIDS, diabetes, and road injuries combined. In fact, in some cities in Australia, 80% of air pollution is contributed by fossil fuel emissions from cars. A person at an outdoor cafe is far more likely to be affected from a car driving past than they are from a person smoking. Banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is a completely unnecessary action. Secondly, completely banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is not only a socially divisive act, effectively parting communities everywhere in Australia, but there are multiple ways to stop secondhand smoke without excluding people from a perceived correct society. One of the smartest ways to do this is to provide air filtration technology in outdoor areas. In 1963, an air filtration system was invented that provided clean air for millions of families around the world. Through time, this invention was adapted to create systems now known as smoke eaters. These systems specifically focus on the harmful chemicals caused by tobacco smoke and create clean air for people 200 square metres around. Restaurant and cafe owners could easily pick up one of these machines to avoid exclusion. Why split our society into two categories, smokers and non-smokers, when we can both share the same space effectively? In addition to this, the ban puts the smoker in danger. Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, that you are out for dinner with your family. You are a smoker and you need to leave the table for a cigarette. You realise that you can't smoke anywhere near your family's table because of the ban. So this, of course, means you need to find somewhere else to go. But where shall it be? The alley next to the restaurant? Somewhere down the street, out of your family's sight? What about walking by yourself to that dark area you saw behind the building? Ladies and gentlemen, this outdoor dining smoking ban was put in place to protect the public from passive smoking. But who is protecting the smoker and their right to eat outdoors and not be put in these compromising and unsafe situations? Now to my final point. In 2004, it became illegal to smoke in enclosed public spaces, also in bushlands, at council events, playing fields and any foreshores. And now it has been banned in outdoor dining areas. Ask yourself, where is there left to smoke? If you were thinking at home, you are correct. It has been proven by healthychildren.org that if you live in a household with smoking parents, you're more likely to develop a range of lung problems. In conclusion, due to health risks from other more deadly causes other than secondhand smoke, the modern technology alternatives available, and the fact that this ban excludes and potentially puts smokers in danger, as well as their children or other family members, proves that the ban on smoking in outdoor dining areas is completely unnecessary and the wrong decision.
I call upon the third affirmative speaker to greet Marley.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is the right decision. We, the affirmative team, believe that the statement, without a doubt, is true. The first negative speaker has tried to tell you that there is no significant relation with women and lung cancer by passive smoking. But they have forgotten that that is just women, and what about all the other people who are contacted by secondhand smoking? The first negative speaker has also tried to tell you that the ban could affect businesses. If a ban was enacted in smoking public dining areas, it could benefit businesses. In a study by IPHI organization says that only 3% of die-hard smokers who claim they would never return. Only 3% of smokers would go away, and most of them would probably come back to the restaurant. Clearly this number shows that it would make not much of a difference to businesses. Also, by the same organization, it has stated that for every smoker a restaurant might lose, they stand to gain 2 non-smokers in return. And in New South Wales, it is said that they gain 7 more non-smokers. The first negative speaker has tried to tell you that smokers will be turned away from restaurants. A New York Times CBS poll regarding smoking in restaurants stated that a full 67% of those polled favor a complete ban on smoking in all dining places, including 39% of current smokers, 74% of former smokers, and 78% of those who never smoked. Furthermore, 56% of adults said that they would more likely go to a restaurant that voluntarily banned smoking as opposed to one that continued to permit smoking. Clearly, this evidence showed that smokers will not be turned away from restaurants. The second negative speaker has tried to tell you that if the ban happened, where would the smokers go? The smokers wouldn't go anywhere. They can simply smoke in a designated legal area for smoking and come back simply to dine. The second negative speaker has also tried to tell you that air pollution is a bigger problem than smoking. They have forgotten that tobacco smoke and other smoke from inhalants is a contributing part to air pollution. So of course it's a bad thing. Our first speaker talked to you about how smoking in dining areas of restaurants can ruin the reputation of the restaurant. This is a good reason why banning smoking in outdoor areas is the right decision, because those who are new to a restaurant can be put off looking at people smoking in the outdoor dining area. Our first speaker has also said that there is a risk of passive smoking in restaurants. This is one of the biggest reasons why banning smoking in dining areas was the right thing to do. Passive smoking is just as bad as smoking and can have serious health risks. He has also said that food can be contaminated by the smoke from the cigarettes or other inhalants. Food can easily be contaminated by the smoke, like cigarette smoke, which is known to have 4,000 chemicals, which can be bad for other people eating outside. Our second speaker spoke to you about how there are areas for smokers to smoke. Many restaurants have designated areas to smoke, and many are creating areas for smoke. A study shows that by 2020, nearly every large restaurant will have a designated smoking area in South Australia. If a restaurant or cafe doesn't have an area that the smoker, they can simply move away to smoke and come back. He also talked about how workers at the restaurant or cafes can have health problems by the smoke. This is a strong point as to why banning smoking was the right decision, because many workers get diseases by working in places where they are constantly exposed to smoke and inhalants. A University of California study suggests that waiters and waitresses have a 50 to 90% increased risk of lung cancer that is most likely attributable to restaurant tobacco smoke exposure. His last point was that people who are eating outside in the dining areas may not enjoy the food that they are eating as the result of smokers nearby. The enjoyment of food also depends on the smell of the food, and if all they smell is smoke, they may not enjoy their food, which is bad for the restaurant. So, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we, the affirmative team, firmly and absolutely believe that banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is the right decision and was made for the betterment of the people so we can all live happy and healthy lives. Thank you.
I call upon the third negative speaker, Batol Jawad.
Good evening, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for tonight's debate is that banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is the right decision. We, the negative team, strongly believe this statement to be false. I will now point out flaws in the opposition team's arguments. The first affirmative speaker has tried to tell you that people will be affected from secondhand smoking in outdoor dining areas. However, this is not entirely true. Secondhand smoking is an illusory health threat. according to an article in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute. A study of 76,000 women over more than a decade found no statistically significant relationship between lung cancer and exposure to passive smoke. This evidently indicates that passive smokers are not being harmfully affected by smokers. Besides, foods that are fatty have a lot of sugar or salt or are more of a threat than secondhand smoking. So should we ban these foods? He had also said that smoking in restaurants will ruin restaurants' reputation. However, this is not entirely true, because how would allowing people of all habits to a restaurant be lowering a reputation? The first affirmative speaker has also tried to tell you that smoking in outdoor dining areas will contaminate food. And the second affirmative speaker has also tried to tell you that it will affect customers. However, this is not entirely true, because smokers are generally considerate of others, especially in dining areas. I mean, let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, how often have you been eating dinner outside and had a smoker purposely puff smoke in your face or food? Furthermore, if you find people's perfume to be unpleasant, does that mean we should put a ban on that too? Therefore, if they are being considerate of others, this doesn't prove that banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is the right decision. The second affirmative speaker has also tried to tell you that passive smoking affects workers in dining areas. However, this is not entirely true, because workers themselves aren't finding secondhand smoking to affect their health in the slightest compared to with other types of pollution, for instance car exhaust fumes. Therefore, this doesn't prove that banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is the right decision. I will now summarize my team's case. Our first speaker explained banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is an extreme law which outcasts smokers and their freedom of choice. Public places are, after all, open to everyone, regardless of their habits. She then explained how the ban is an act of discrimination and totally hypocritical. Her second point was the terrible effect banning smoking in outdoor dining areas will have on the economy, because the implementation of this ban means that restaurants, pubs, cafes will lose business, as smokers may potentially stop frequenting these places. Our second speaker has outlined how there are greater health risks in the public than passive smoking, like air pollution, with car exhaust fumes being 80% of air pollution in some cities, not smoke from smoking. She then discussed completely banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is a socially divisive act. Instead, restaurant and cafe owners could use modern technology like smoke eaters to create clean air, not designate them to specific areas. In a situation, she then also explained how banning smoking in outdoor dining areas puts a smoker in danger. In a situation when you are having dinner outside and want to smoke, the ban forces smokers to walk often alone to a secluded place to find somewhere where they could smoke. In conclusion, we, the negative team, strongly believe that banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is the wrong decision, as it will affect the country's economy, is hypocritical, socially divisive, and put smokers in danger. In addition, secondhand smoking is a minimal health risk compared with other air pollution. Therefore, banning smoking in outdoor dining areas is undeniably the wrong decision.
Please wait while the adjudicator finalizes the result. now invite the adjudicator, Mr. Saxon.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming out to tonight's debate. Firstly, a big congratulations to everyone for making it this far in the season. It's a great achievement to be in the finals for debating. A reminder that the grand final is going to be held in the House of Assembly chamber in Parliament House on the 24th of September, so there's no need to RSVP to that, but if you want to come along for a great day's worth of debating to see some year levels above you, or if you're fortunate enough to get into the debate, obviously you'll be there, but it's a really great day just to watch some of the older people debating and see how they're going. Also on the 22nd of October between 6 and 8:30 is the Great Debate. So to celebrate our 25th anniversary, we're holding a fun debate between some really prominent orators in Adelaide and some of our students. So it's going to be a good night with some food and drinks, and it's set to be really enjoyable. For the semi-final debate, so the team that wins this, they're once again going to be held in at Pembroke, but that time they'll be in the senior school, so just be mindful of that for next debate. And they're held for you guys Tuesday the 13th of September, but all this information's up on the website if you need to double check that. So yeah, and obviously a big thank you to Pembroke for letting us use their facilities. Before I award the debate, I'd like to give some individual feedback. So first, feminist speaker George, I thought tonight you spoke pretty well. You had your team, you played the role that your team needed really, really well as the first speaker, in that you defined the topic and you had three really set defined points. So you had that it ruins the reputation of the restaurant. I thought that was quite nice about how it sort of kills the vibe. So I thought that was a really interesting way of looking at quite socially, just people don't really like smokers. I liked the contamination of food while eating, how it sort of ruins the dieting. And I liked where you were going with your point about passive smoking. I liked how you had this idea that it does affect the wider society, how it's not just the smoker smoking for themselves, how that's affecting the people around them. However, you didn't really back it up with enough hard evidence. At one point you said people would definitely be contracting health problems. That's not really true. Not everyone who sits in an outdoor area next to a smoker is going to have a health problem through that. And if I remember correctly, you had one reference throughout that point, and that sort of point is where you really need to be strong with evidence, because all it takes is the opposition standing up, having done a bit more research and going, well, actually, that's rubbish. Like, this report says that there's no statistical evidence to prove this. So just be really mindful of getting lots of references so the credibility is really there. Because the point makes sense. It's just, it needs to be really firmly backed up. But other than that, I thought it was a good debate tonight. First, negative speaker Gerson. I thought following on from what I've just said, your rebuttal of the secondary smoking point was spot on in that you had the reference to go with it. You said this institute, this organisation, I think they say that passive smoking statistically has been proven to be a non-issue. So I thought that was a really strong way of undermining one of their key points. I thought your point about how it would be discriminatory is a very interesting one, how it's a public space so it should be available to everyone. And so you have the freedom of choice and this idea that banning smoking is hurting the individual. If you're going to ban things that are hurting the individual, then you should be banning the food that they're eating if it's not healthy food. That sort of line of argument. I also liked your argument about how it affects the businesses, how it would be detrimental to the businesses. However, you have to be a bit more specific with that sort of claim, because at one point you were quoting someone who owns a cafe and you said, they say they lost lots of regular customers. Lots of regular customers could mean really anything to anyone. So that could be 2 regular customers, that could be 200. So just make sure you're really specific with those sort of arguments so that it comes across in more of a quantitative way rather than just a description of it. But I thought other than that point, you'd worked your stats into the arguments really well and you spoke excellently, so well done. Second affirmative speaker, Evan. I liked your rebuttal point about how the smokers, they have rights, but it's within reason, that they also have a responsibility to the people around them, that it's quite rude to be smoking at dinner time when you're eating. So I thought that was a really good point. I also liked how you were talking about how it affects the workers, how you had a reference to that, how you were talking about how 50 to 60% of chefs and restaurant employees have an increased chance of lung cancer due to the secondhand smoking, and how 1 smoking customer leads to 5 non-smokers leaving. So I thought that was very interesting, how it sort of counteracted their idea that it helps the business side of things. I thought tonight you spoke excellently well. That was a real, it was really enjoyable to listen to, really. Like, it was just, the way you engaged with the audience was really spot on. Just one issue I had with your arguments were, at one point you were talking about how there's designated areas for smokers rather than smoking outside. And that argument, I could get where you were going with that, but it sort of undermines your team's point. If you're saying that they're right to not be smoking outside, then you're saying, well, there should be a designated smoking area, because then you could just stand up and say, well, what if the designated smoking area was outside? So just watch that you don't undermine your team's points by bringing up something like that. Just stick to the other really strong points you had. Second negative speaker, Tori. I liked the rebuttal point about how it's not actually all that unpleasant to a lot of diners because smokers have manners. They're not going to be smoking directly in your face. And that led really nicely into one of your points about how there's other alternatives. There's better options, so you can get air filtration systems, and you can also just not sit with the smokers, essentially. I thought you spoke really well, but I thought some of your arguments, the arguments themselves weren't as strong as they could be. So the argument that there's deadlier pollution than tobacco smoke, and that because of that it's not an issue, that argument doesn't always add up when you can consider that yes, there's other deadly things, but just because they're worse doesn't detract from how bad this other thing is. That's like saying if you're swimming that a shark might be more deadly than a stingray, but if you see a stingray, you're still going to be pretty scared of it. So just because something's worse than another doesn't then make it better, if that makes sense. And also, the argument that you closed on that it forces a smoker to then leave the restaurant and have to go away from their family and friends and perhaps walk down a dark alleyway, and down that dark alleyway they could get mugged, and that train of thought was quite a stretch, really. Just try and tone back those sort of arguments, because it's a bit, at first you're thinking, oh, maybe it could happen, but then it just spirals into a bit of what ifs. So try and avoid that sort of train of thought, because it's really easy to stand up and say, well, you shouldn't walk down a dark alleyway to smoke. Like, that's a bit of common sense there. But I thought your presentation tonight was very good. Third affirmative speaker, Joe. I liked your point in rebuttal about this idea about it being bad for business, and you said, well, most smokers don't actually care about smoking at dinner, and how it's not affecting their choice on where they go, if they can smoke or can't smoke at the dining establishment. I thought you had good references to back that up. Also liked how you picked up on this idea that air pollution being worse than tobacco smoke, and you plainly said that, well, tobacco smoke, that contributes to air pollution, and this idea that tobacco smoke is bad regardless of if something else is worse. I thought your summary was very comprehensive. Just a couple of things with presentation, try to read off a little bit less, and also if you get to that continuous bell, you've just got to sit down. So when you hear the double bell, try and start wrapping it up a bit quicker, because even if you're sort of saying your good night bit at the continuous bell, it sort of puts that, it's in our heads thinking, oh, he didn't really wrap up on time and it's a bit unfinished, so just make sure you're really within the time constraints. Third, negative speaker, Vital. I liked how you towed sort of your team's line a lot of the time, especially in the rebuttal of secondhand smoking. There's no stats to back up the dangers of that. The ruining reputation, well, no, it's actually showing that they're an inclusive establishment, and that it doesn't actually contaminate a lot of foods because the smoker's pretty considerate with that. But I thought your summary was also good, but once again, just the team point that you then brought up about how this car exhaust being worse than tobacco smoke, sure, but that doesn't mean that the tobacco smoke's not bad itself. So overall, I thought it was a very interesting debate, and once again, congratulations both teams. You were both very deserving finalists. So tonight, I thought the team that won had slightly stronger cohesive team arguments, in that they followed on from each other a bit stronger and they were able to support each other a bit better. Tonight I thought that was the affirmative team, and I thought the best speaker was Gerson.
I call upon a member of the runner-up team to give a vote of thanks.
I thank the opposition team, the audience, the chairman and the timekeeper, and especially the adjudicator for useful feedback.
I call upon a member of the winning team to give a vote of thanks, to second that vote of thanks.
Yeah, I just want to thank the opposition team. Really good debate tonight. Thank Miss Manning Bennett for organising our team and making sure we get everything done. Thank all the parents for helping us, and I thank the adjudicators for judging us. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance. I now declare this debate closed.